Hello, activists. Welcome to The Accidental Activist. I'm chandamasta, the serious blonde. And tonight we got a great show. We've been waiting on this show for a couple of weeks now. We're so happy to have Georgia Davenport with us. Georgia is a founder and field organizer for Whole Washington, and she is also running for the House of Legislation in Washington's CD7. Or is that right?
That's correct.
All right, I got it down. So I've known Georgia for a couple of years. I'm always so impressed by how well you juggle the, walking the establishment line and the progressives, because Georgia has been out there leading the battle for universal health care in Washington state, and she's done an amazing job navigating, all of the different personalities and, trying to get what it takes to get something like this passed. But first, I want to go into how you became an activist. This is, that's kind of our format here. And so I've got a couple of slides. Aj, you want to bring up slide one? So going through your timeline, it looks like you started out much like the rest of us, and that was with Bernie in probably 2015. Is that how you got started?
Well, actually, I was an anti-war organizer, activist in Mexico and Albuquerque, New Mexico, leading up to the Iraq War. And I helped design one of the biggest anti-war websites at that time called stopthewarmachine.org.
Oh, yeah.
Also helped organize protests there. The problem is that all that effort we put in didn't seem to change anything. There were only a few politicians at the time who were speaking against that war, and one of them was Senator Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Oh, and not only was he speaking out against that war, organizing protests. So I remember from way back then really respecting Senator Bernie Sanders. However, again, like I said, nothing we did stop that war. So I kind of checked it out. I got really, really cynical. All I did was vote. That's all I could bring myself to do for years, was just vote. And that was all I was going to do.
Wow.
And then in 2015, when Senator Bernie Sanders announced that he would run for president, that's when I jumped all back in. So this is a person who's consistently been on the right side of history. If I can do anything to help him win, I need to do it. So I went to a meeting, a South Sound for Bernie Sanders meeting in Burien, Washington. And I asked, what can I do to get involved so that I can help Bernie Sanders win Washington state? And I was so new at that time. I remember saying that I wanted to be a super delegate for Bernie Sanders. That's how little I knew at that time about the process. And people kind of chuckled. And then one woman said that I should run as a PCO for my legislative district organization. But of course she said LD. And I said, I have no idea what you're saying. I don't know what an LD is or a PCO is. So they explained it to me, and I went to my first LD meeting with a good friend of mine now, Heather Post, who actually ran for Bernie delegate position this year. And she ran as Bernie delegate in 2016 as well. And we canvassed for Bernie. We both ran as PCOs. I became the state committee woman for the 33rd LD. She's now the state committee woman for the 33rd.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. But to go back to 2016, I ran phone banks, text banks. I did Bernie delegate trainings, and I didn't win national delegate, but the Bernie campaign invited me to be a Bernie super volunteer.
So you got to be a super anyways.
Yes, I was super something. Which I was actually, at that time when that happened, I was like, this is really funny how it all worked out in the end. So when I got to Philadelphia, I ended up driving Bernie surrogates around Philadelphia. And at that time, again, I was so new, I had no idea what a Bernie surrogate was when I got. When I said that, yes, I would do it, I had no idea. I thought I would be driving delegates.
Right.
So when I went to my first meeting and they started talking about Susan Sarandon and Danny Glover and Nina Turner, I turned to my friend, Joanne Fleming, who
I know Joanne, yeah.
Who's the state committee woman from the 3rd LD now. And I was like, what are they talking about? Susan Sarandon and Danny Glover. We're not driving them around, are we? And sure enough, I got to drive Susan Sarandon and Danny Glover to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. So it was quite an experience. I also went to the protests, and after that, I kind of got disenchanted and cynical again.
Right.
We put in all that work, and Bernie wasn't the nominee. So I got really involved with initiatives, because the great thing about initiatives is they do exactly what they say they're going to do. You don't need the legislature to all pass the initiative, the piece of legislation. You don't need the governor to sign it. And it does exactly what it says it's
right. Right.
So I started working on Initiative 735, which was the initiative to overturn Citizens United here in Washington State.
So important.
Yes. It was a great initiative run by Cindy Black, who's an awesome organizer. And I just really fell in love with the initiative process. And after that, initiative won by 64%, which is we kind of discussed where we would want to go from there. And I'm not going to jump the gun. I know we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. So, you want to put up my next slide? Oh, so we have you up organizing on that one. Marching, parades. You can go ahead and put us on to the next slide. Okay, so these are your brag slides. So you were talking about some of the people you got to drive around. I love this picture with you and Nina. Is that Amy Goodman?
Yeah, so the Nina Turner one, this is when she came to give a speech for 735.
Oh, that's right.
35, and this is at Washington Hall, which is an amazing space for organizers.
It is.
And she just gave this incredible speech. I mean, every speech she gives is incredible.
It's true.
And she had this black top on that had dragon scales on the side. I mean, she is my number one hero for sure.
Mine too. I'm totally a fan.
There are not very many politicians who, after 10 minutes, I don't check out. You know, I'm like, ugh, stop talking. But Nina Turner, I'm like, after 2 hours, I'm like, encore.
Right, me too. Totally agree. I can't get enough Nina.
And that's Amy Goodman when she came to Seattle for one of her book signings. And it was a really incredible evening, but the most incredible part afterwards, when her next show, she had Shama Sawant, and she actually talked about a group of organizers who were getting ready to run a ballot initiative for universal healthcare, which was whole Washington. So I felt really proud of that moment, because I did tell her about what we were trying to do and slipped her a card when she was signing my book. So that was a great moment for me.
Well, you should be proud. The work that you have done, so many of us organizers have watched you. And we were all so new in 2016 and we were shy and we didn't know each other. But to watch what you have helped lead and what we have helped do in the last 4 years is just, it's beyond comprehension. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud of everybody that has worked on this. And I know that we're not going to stop until it's an actual law in Washington State. So as you want to hit the next slide. There's Shama.
She's one of the other few politicians.
Me too.
Speak for 2 hours, and at the end of that I'm like, encore, come on.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have the exact same taste when it comes to these guys. I think there might be one more in this segment that I want to put up, and I think Danny Glover's in this one. You can't really see him. He's in the corner. I didn't make him very big, but you can see Georgia's driving in the car and Danny Glover's sitting next to her. Oh my God, I would have been freaking out.
Yeah, I was pretty nervous. In fact, I did get us lost the first time.
Oh no.
And he was so mad. Because he ended up being about 45 minutes late to his speaking engagement. And the person she was juggling a lot of different things. So when she sent me an address, she didn't put the coordinates, you know, how some cities, southeast, northeast, and that sort of thing. So I took us to the other side of town because I didn't have the right coordinate.
Oh no.
I dropped him off because it said a church. I dropped him off in front of a church that was at that coordinates, and nothing was happening there. And he got like surrounded by a bunch of people who were like, "Oh my gosh, that's Danny Glover!" And so he was really mad.
Oh,
But after
no.
his speaking engagement, he got back in the car and he was like, "We're good, Georgia. We're good." So it took me a few hours to get up the courage to be like, "I know I screwed everything up when we first met. Like, can I take a selfie with you?" And he was totally cool about it. So that was really nice. But
Wow, what a story! What a story! I can just hear him saying that to you too, like in his Danny Glover voice.
it was pretty wild. And he was the one I ended up driving around the most. The next day, some of the delegations hotels were really far away from Philadelphia, like an hour and a half. So he was doing speaking engagements at a lot of different hotels, and one of them was an hour and a half away. So I got to spend a significant amount of time with Danny Glover, which was pretty.
And the traffic there was outrageous. I mean, with that many people in town, I'm sure it's bad anyways, but it was really bad trying to get through town. I mean, Ubers were taking hours just to go a couple of miles.
Yes, actually, Susan Sarandon, she was my second surrogate that I drove around, and she called me brave for Philadelphia. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, Susan Sarandon just called me brave." And then
you are brave.
Thank you.
I was scared driving down there. There's a couple times I had to drive, but we would park on the outskirts and then catch the train in. You know, we'd ride the subway in from the outskirts. Okay, so at this time, everybody's waiting for us to talk about whole Washington, but I want to run a clip. Some of you might have heard that a gentleman who had COVID in Washington recently was released, and he received his hospital bill. His hospital bill was well over $1 million. So I just want to play a few minutes of this clip from Kyle Kulinski talking about this hospital bill, and then we will roll into whole Washington.
This adds to the dynamic of the U.S. being the laughing stock of the world in many respects, or the freak show of the world. I think there are probably people in other countries who look down on us in the sense that they think, "Oh, you poor fools. You poor fools." So this is in the Seattle Times. Coronavirus survival comes with a $1.1 million 181-page price tag. $1.1 million for coronavirus treatment. Can't make this stuff up. So the gentleman's name is Michael Floor. He's 70 years old. He was in the hospital for 62 days. 62 days. Now, I'll give you the exact number in a second, but let me give you a little breakdown of the costs here. The ICU room that he was in, which is a special, pandemic room that's kind of sealed and everything, $408,912. That's what just the room cost. The mechanical ventilator that he was on for 29 days, he was billed at $2,835 per day. So you do the math on that. $2,835 times 29. So it says it here. Total of $82,215. That's how much for the ventilator. And about a quarter of the bill is just drug costs. There was a time where he was in dire straits, and so the doctors were like, I don't know, throw everything we got at him. Throw whatever, experimental, non-experimental, off-label, on-label, whatever it was, hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir, whatever. Everything that potentially may work, just throw it at him. We're going to do everything we can to try to save this guy. So about 25% of the cost was drug costs. Now, the exact number, this is the exact number that he got a bill for. You ready? $1,122,501.04. See, what's so amazing about this story is I led, and the headline says $1.1 million is what the bill was. The real bill was $1,122,501.04. Our system is so messed up that even the difference that I told you there, the difference of the bills, Okay, I said 1.1 million, but the real number is $1,122,501.04. Even just the difference would be way too much as a medical bill. The difference would be $22,501.04.
Wow. I mean, I saw that and I was like, oh, I'm sure the media is hyping that up. But when you look into that story, that is an actual story. And this is not the only person, the only person in Washington State or America that is dealing with crippling healthcare. And, so Georgia, you said you came out of 2016 and you just dove into initiatives. And I know universal healthcare has been your number one issue that you've been championing. And I just want to have you kind of break it down, how you got involved, what made you decide to pursue an initiative, and all the steps we had, you and us had to go through to get this initiative even created.
Yeah, so we're really, really lucky in Washington State to have the initiative process where we can circumvent elected officials who refuse to take actions on very, very important issues. We have had a single payer universal health care bill of some sort in the legislature for decades. It's had 2 hearings. It's never made it out of committee. And the last 2 years, we've had a Democratic majority. Both the House and the committees have Democrats as the chairs. They don't call these bills for a hearing, and they certainly don't let them out of committee. And, I don't think it's a coincidence that they take a whole bunch of money from for-profit insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't know how many people got to see our good, amazing volunteer, Tobias Graves, go in front of the Senate Healthcare Committee and ask Senator Annette Cleveland to her face why she would not let these bills come out of committee. And he said, I was trying to find a reason, and I ended up finding 81,000 reasons. And that's how much money, $81,000, that's how much money you took from for-profit insurers and pharmaceutical companies. So that's what we're up against. And that's why I really believe in the initiative process. We need the people to go out there, collect signatures, sign the initiative, and get it on the ballot. Because I feel like that's the only way we're going to get it done. We have a Democratic majority, and they've proven that they're not interested in passing these bills.
Right.
For that matter.
Right. Yeah, I've been down to the Capitol a couple of times to help support Whole Washington, especially when we first launched. And yeah, it was shocking, the amount of money that these people are taking. You don't pay attention. I think the average everyday voter doesn't pay attention to what your legislators or the legislators in the county or the district next to you are actually doing. Democrat good, Republican bad, so I'm just going to vote for these people. But when you start actually digging in and who's paying these people, who is actually getting these people reelected, we know why these bills are sitting in committee for decades and why they're not coming out. And I watched so many amazing people come into Olympia and give their testimony to these legislators of, look, our people are dying, our families are dying, our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers are dying, and they're dying in crippling debt. They're losing their homes, they're losing their life savings, and it just runs off of these politicians. It's so amazing. So what are some of the astounding interactions you've had, with these guys? Because you've been out there with all of these guys, Shama and fighting.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Tobias Graves and actually Oz, who is the producer of Uphill Media, who's making this magic happen right now, we all went to Senator Annette Cleveland's office right after Tobias Graves gave that amazing testimony. And we talked to Senator Annette Cleveland's chief legislative aide. And she said, you really embarrassed Senator Annette. She
Good.
Are you Tobias? And he said, yes. And she said, you really embarrassed Senator Annette Cleveland. She does not take money from those people that you said. She doesn't take money from corporations. And we were all like, it's on the PDC website. You can look it up right now. I mean, we're not lying about this. You can literally go Google PDC Senator Annette Cleveland and see all the corporations that she takes money from.
Wow.
it even shocks her own staff that is taking this money. It's wild. And I will tell you another thing that I heard often when I was there on that lobby day, which is, do you know how strong the insurance company lobby is? Like, really, is that who you're representing? I mean, I shouldn't be shocked that you would just come right out and say it like that, but I am kind of shocked.
Right. You're supposed to keep you don't say that stuff out loud.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about people's lives. 522,000 Washington State residents before COVID-19 didn't have health insurance. And millions more have lost their jobs. I mean, this pandemic is a clear demonstration that health insurance and healthcare should not be tied to employment. But even before this, we had 500,000 people without health insurance. We have people dying.
Yep.
8,000 plus people dying every year due to lack of healthcare in our nation. And yet we have politicians who say, do you know how strong the healthcare lobby is? No, you're not representing the healthcare lobby. You need to be representing us, your constituents. And you know what? It's not even about whether or not you'll get reelected. It's about doing the right thing. How can you sleep at night knowing that people are dying because your decisions and you're listening to the healthcare lobby and not listening to what the right thing to do is.
Right. You're right. It's so shocking that they do that and that they don't care. So in the beginning of Whole Washington, we had that how are you going to pay for it question, right? So how did you answer that?
Well, it's an excellent question, and I totally understand why people ask it. I hear people asking it about Medicare for all, pretty much any piece of legislation, that it will be beneficial to the American public. You need to answer that question. So we worked with this great organization called Progressive Coders Network, and they were able to come up with a savings estimator. It's a type of calculator where you can put in how much you currently pay for healthcare, and it will use the funding mechanisms that were studied by Dr. Gerald Friedman. He's a world-renowned single-payer economist from Amherst, and he's studied different single-payer bills all across the United States, including the national Medicare for all bills. So we paid him to do a funding study for us. And due to that funding study, we can actually tell people on our website, you can go to our website, wholewashington.org, and type in how much you currently pay, and it will tell you how much you will save on healthcare if the Whole Washington Health Trust passes.
That's amazing. And I remember in the beginning, like when this was just an idea, it was a concept, we came together as a small motley group, most of us didn't know if we were coming or going. A lot of us decided we didn't want to be Democrats anymore. So some of us were green, some of us were, other parties. But we knew that we had to get behind this. And the first thing we needed to do was raise money to get this study done so we could answer that question. And so, that's really when a lot of us hit the ground, fundraising, tabling. I have done so much tabling for Whole Washington. I love talking to the public because it is a common thing that everybody wants. I don't care if you're Republican or as you identify as a Democrat or an independent. A majority of the people out there think we need universal health care. And, the few that don't, their only thing is, well, why should I pay for somebody else's health care? So tabling is fun. But I was so impressed with, you just knew what we needed to get done. You did it. And then, so we got the study back and now we're at the initiative phase. All of those initiatives, oh my gosh, having all of those printed up and getting them shipped out to everybody, that was a mammoth task. How did you undertake that?
Well, the truth is, I didn't do that. We had so many amazing volunteers who did most of that. Sarah Stowe, she shipped tons of petitions all over the state. People just stepped up and really just dug in, because I think that again, with initiatives, it gives people hope. It's real direct action. I think that a lot of people get tired of calling their legislators and begging them to pass legislation to save people's lives. So I think that's why so many people like you, me, a lot of thousands of people from around the state just really took the initiative, so to speak, and got involved with the ballot measure. And I think what we did was incredible for our attempt, collecting more than 100,000 signatures, all grassroots, 100% volunteer. I wasn't even paid. I was the campaign director. No one was getting paid except for Dr. Gerald Friedman, of course.
Right, he got paid.
Who got paid for the study. But yeah, I mean, that's just how dedicated we all were to the cause. We, after work, going out to collect signatures on the weekends, going to Folk Life Festival for 3 days in a row. That was one of the greatest memories of my life. But
that's awesome.
So many other people, so many other organizers and activists from all over the state just coming down to collect signatures during that event and Pride. So it was a really great experience for everyone, I think.
Yeah, I have a lot of good memories of whole Washington signature gathering. I did a booth down at the Capitol. I did booths at my farmers market, at the Wanda Fuca Festival. Yeah, it is fun to just get out there and talk about, an issue that is affecting so many people. So what happened with this initiative?
Well, we needed 300,000 signatures and we got 105,000, so not enough to make it. But a lot of grassroots ballot measures take 2 times to actually qualify for the ballot.
We didn't have a lot of time to gather, right?
Yeah, so we did an initiative to the people, which means you only have about 5 months total once the petitions are printed. And like I said, a bunch of different grassroots initiatives take 2 times if you don't have a lot of money. Initiative 940 with the De-Escalate Washington, they had tried once before and they didn't qualify. Initiative 735 actually tried twice before they qualified. So grassroots initiatives, they take a few times to build up the momentum and volunteer power in order to get on the ballot.
Well, and get the recognition so people will sign. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when you don't have a lot of money to get into the press and that sort of thing to advertise, to really get the word out. So it does take one run, and then those 2 initiatives, they got their more than 300,000 signatures and then passed in 2016 and 2017. So I feel really strongly that we will be able to get on the ballot and pass the next time we try. And we were geared up to do it this year, but because of COVID-19, we had to suspend the campaign just because we didn't want people to go out face to face and risk virus. Because in Washington State, unfortunately, there's no online signature gathering. You have to do it in person and get in-person signatures.
Yeah, we need an initiative to change that. Sounds like a plan. So that's where that's where I was at with it. Is we were geared up 3 months ago, ready to hit the ground running, and this time we were going to hit that number, and then COVID hit, and it's just kind of like, it takes a lot of time, money, and energy. So I totally can understand why you wouldn't want to roll it out unless we're ready to go for it.
Exactly. We don't want to try again and do all that work without being sure that we're going to get the signatures. But the positive thing is that we do have hundreds of volunteers who have already pledged to collect over 190,000 signatures, which is an initiative campaign has never really done before, to have people pre-pledge to collect a certain amount of signatures. So we're ahead of the game as far as that goes. So when we're able to launch, I have no doubt that we'll make the ballot this time.
Yeah, I don't either. There's so many that are just driven like you to get this done. Oz, if we get any comments, can you throw them up on the screen for me? Because I can't really see my phone right now. It seems like there's a couple of big comments in there. I don't know if they're questions. But okay, so I'm kind of like, I want to talk about whole Washington a little bit more, just because I want people to understand that it's not just a Washington-centric type of thing. We're really hoping to be the model to help other states figure out how to roll this out. We saw this in Canada. Medicare for All didn't just roll out nationwide for Canada, right?
Yeah, so they actually passed their single-payer system province by province, starting with Saskatchewan. So often whole Washington says we want to be the Saskatchewan of the United States. But I have had the opportunity to talk to several different states recently, and we're discussing a plan to do initiatives all at the same time starting next year. So the idea
wow.
is that if we have like 5 or more states all running initiatives at the same time, then the pharmaceutical companies and the for-profit insurance companies won't be able to just target one state and squash the effort. They'll have to, spread their efforts out, and maybe we can get one state to push through, or maybe all 5 states. So that's really exciting.
That is exciting. Wow, I didn't know that. And that's really smart because, they can just hone in on Washington and like, oh, we're going to shut this stuff down. But if there's a bunch of different states, then they have to spread their money and energy out. That's really smart. Okay, so I want to read one of these comments. Most corrupt medical systems in the world, just suggestions for about 300,000 a trust attorney. You can form a trust, essentially making you immune from any hospital bills or civil liabilities. Fireman John, I did not know that, and I'll have to look into it. Uphill Media, thank you for your hard work. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and please hit that like button and be sure to share this so we can share universal healthcare with the rest of the country. So I think we'll just roll into the Red Beret song. This thing is so amazing. I came across this on YouTube and I was like, well, how come nobody ever sent this to me? How come I never saw it? It came out like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I was like, Rhonda, what is this? She's like, oh yeah, it was really fun. I was like, nobody even sent it to me. Yeah, I'm very impressed with the Red Beret song. You want to explain the Red Berets?
Yeah, so my good friend, who actually I didn't know at the time, her name's Laura Fielding. She's the executive director of Red Berets for Medicare for All. She, after the Women's marches happened, she was trying to think of other ways to really advocate for Medicare for All, universal health care, single payer. And she started crafting Red Berets for people to wear instead of the pink pussy hats.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she started crafting these, and she ended up getting in touch with our current chair, Kathy Lewandowski, a nurse. I guess she posted on Facebook about her Red Berets idea, and Catherine Lewandowski contacted her about that. And they met, and Catherine said, you should talk to Georgia Davenport. She's the campaign director for whole Washington. Maybe you can collaborate. And Laura and I met, and we were instant friends. And rest is history. I love my Red Berets. We have them for sale on wholewashington.org. They go, they help. When you buy Red Berets, they contribute to a whole Washington campaign and also to Red Berets Medicare for All, and the wonderful crafters who help make these berets.
Well, they're awesome. You guys stand out in a crowd. It doesn't matter what event we're at. You can always see where the Red Berets are. The Bernie rally at the Tacoma Dome, you guys just had the whole crowd spotted. It was wonderful. So yeah, Oz, if you want to go ahead and roll this clip.
Croce, delizia, crochet a red berets for Medicare, Medicare for all. Healthcare is a human right, healthcare for everyone. No one is left out, no one is left behind. It's not so crazy to guarantee healthcare, Medicare for all, Medicare for all, Medicare for all. With my Red Beret. stands up for us, stands up for working folk, nurses and miners, servers and teachers. Millions of people say, enough is enough. We're building our movement as we wear these red berets. It's not just Bernie, it's not me, it's us, organizer-in-chief with the receipts. With the receipts. And Nina Turner too.
I love the and Nina Turner too. That's beautiful. Great job, everybody who was involved in the making of that. It turned out beautiful.
Yes, I am so impressed with it. Somebody from the Seattle Peace Choir did all that Zoom mashup, and just it came out so amazing. I mean, I'm tearing up.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
Tear up.
So get your red berets, go to wholewashington.org, and you could be singing with the rest of us.
Exactly.
So we had a friend, I've been talking about doing a segment on the show just to attribute to all of these amazing progressives that we have been close to, been mentored by, that we love, that have passed on. And I know I personally have lost quite a few in the last few years. And we had a mutual one, Kathy Angel. Kathy lived close to me. She was one of my very first mentors, always encouraging me to get involved, to stay involved. And she really jumped in the fight for Whole Washington, even more than I did in the very beginning. And sadly, she had a rare form of cancer, and she was in experimental treatments. And I don't even think most of us knew how sick she really was, as much as she was fighting. I look back on it now, and it hardens my heart. So Oz, there's a next slide. I think I have a picture of Kathy. Yeah. So this was a memorial wrote by Kathy's daughter. I just want to read it because it really talks to our movement. And it says, Kathy Angel was a courageous warrior queen with a gentle and generous, nurturing heart. She lived in the free-spirited ways of a true flower child of the 60s. She was ever present, wild, and uncompromising, with great determination to leave this place better than it was before her. She was loved by many and will live on in our hearts and our fondest memories. Her memory will inspire us to be our best selves by pushing us to challenge our fears and fight for what we believe in. We're taking the time to, and while taking the time to enjoy all that is good, a flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. I almost want to tear up with that. So, I want to keep memorializing these people that really taught us how to get into the fight, to continue the fight. And, we're trying to make the world a better place. I know you have children, I have grandchildren and children, and really this is about their future and what we're leaving them. And they can't do that if they're sick and they can't get the health care that they need. And so I just wanted to take a minute to pay tribute to Kathy. Yeah, that one was tough. I can see George's a little teared up too. So, well, I want to talk about your candidacy.
Well, before we do, I want to tell you about the first time I met Kathy.
Yeah, please do.
Actually, was when I did an initiative writing training about ballot measures. Before I even worked for Initiative 735, it's the first time I met Cindy Black too. So,
another amazing activist organizer. Yeah.
So Kathy Angel attended the training that Cindy Black put on, because I knew nothing about initiatives at that time. I just knew that when they passed, they become law, which was very attractive to me. Right. So Kathy attended it, and her and I got along really well. We hit it off. And when I told her that I was thinking about launching an initiative for healthcare, she really was very on board with that since she is a nurse.
Right.
And I think it was our second or third meeting. I was like, Kathy, will you become our chair? Because she was just, she was such a dedicated, hard worker, nurse, and so passionate about changing our system. And she was an amazing chair. You're totally right. She didn't really let on about how sick she was. So when she did die, it was about 2 weeks before the initiative was, we were supposed to turn in the signature. It was devastating.
It was devastating, yeah.
So one of the things I want to do on the next initiative is put on every single petition we print in dedication of Kathy Angel.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And I want to make sure that Jen, her daughter, knows that we're down here still memorializing because her daughter lives in Alaska. And, one of my last memories of Kathy was a part of our committee that went into the Democratic Party. So everything she was doing for whole Washington, she was still up here fighting side by side with the progressives. And she ran for correspondence secretary for the Clallam County Dems. And of course she won. And the amount of work that goes into being a correspondence secretary, because she has to record everything that's said at every meeting, and then she has to type it out into minutes. And I mean, she was spending hours and hours a week doing this, and they didn't even care. They didn't appreciate it. There was no thank you for spending. And I just thought she spent the last year of her life typing out minutes for such hateful, mean, rude people. And she still was an angel about it. She was so sweet. She was always kind. She never had a bad word to say about anybody. If she didn't like something or somebody, she would just move away from it. She wouldn't talk bad about it. And I really learned from that. And I learned from that from you and from Cindy Black, and that you can just rise above all the pettiness and the stuff and still continue to work and still obtain the goal. So that's the one thing Kathy left in my heart, and I take it with me every day. Totally. So now you're running for office. Can I say, when I heard you were moving to Eastern Washington, I was jumping in the air like, yes, if anybody can turn Eastern Washington blue, it's going to be Georgia.
Well, that wasn't the reason we were
I'm sure.
in Washington, but it's a good side effect, possibly. So my husband applied for a job out here. Actually, when we moved to Seattle, we were forced essentially to transfer from our place in Durango, Colorado, which is a pretty small town. I've always loved the country and lived in the country. I love horseback riding. I'm a country girl. So moving to Seattle was a little bit of a shock. So we've been trying to find a more rural place to live for the last 6 years. Great that the Spokane airport was looking for an airport manager. So my husband applied for that job and he got it, and we moved to the 7th legislative district. Now I had no intention of running for office. I actually kind of wanted to back off.
Take a breath.
Yeah. Maybe focus a little bit more on my home life and that sort of thing. But the Thursday before filing week was over, no one had filed to run against the Republican here in this district. And I really feel that people should have the choice, because a lot like some of the representatives I was talking about earlier, she takes a ton of money. She's a Republican, takes a ton of money from for-profit insurers, Phillips 66 charter schools. I mean,
oh my gosh,
it's pretty wild.
So how long has she been in that seat?
I think 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
But she was originally elected. That's what happens usually out here is the Republican PCOs will vote on a replacement. What will happen is like the incumbent will run for re-election, get elected, and then run for something else to get appointed to something else. And then the Republican PCOs will vote on the next Republican to replace the person who just resigned from that position. So that's kind of how they do it out here to ensure that there's always a Republican incumbent.
Right.
So when on Thursday evening, no one had filed to run, and I checked with a lot of people who would be in the know if anybody was planning on filing last minute. Nobody was planning on filing. So I said, people in this district deserve a choice. Healthcare is the number one issue for most voters, and I'm very, very in tune with that issue. And also, big money out of politics. I know that people in this district probably would be very shocked to learn where Jacqueline Maycomer gets most of her donations from. It's not small donors, it's not her voters, it's not her constituents, it's the corporations. So I'm probably to not take money from any of those for-profit insurance companies or Phillips 66 or charter schools because I don't support any of those organizations. So I wouldn't take their money.
So how's the reception been out there? Is there a lot of Democrats that are just been waiting for somebody to come forward?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of positive responses. So far, I've had the Ponderay Democrats, Okanagan Democrats. I just was on Ponderay. I don't know if they've endorsed me yet, but Okanagan Democrats, Stevens County Democrats, the 7th Legislative District Democrats have already endorsed me. I've gotten people just thanking me for stepping up to run. So it's been a really, really positive response. So far, I've been kind of ignored by the opposition, which we'll see how it goes in the primary. If I do really well, I'm sure they won't ignore me anymore.
Right.
But it's only 2 of us, so I will make it through the primary.
Yay, I'm so excited for your race. Like, I can't wait to even just okay, I'm going to Eastern Washington to help Georgia. So what can people do in light of COVID and not getting out and door knocking? How do we help you?
Well, right now I'm printing out signs, yard signs, which is very expensive. So if you can donate, my website is Davenport4Washington.com. Or you can go to that website to volunteer. I will be doing text banking and postcard writing. Right now, it's really difficult to do canvassing. It's hard in this area anyways, because it's really rural and most people are very spread out. So we're going to do mostly text banking and phone banking and, again, postcard writing. So you can do that from anywhere in the state or country if you're willing to help out with my race.
So if you want to help out, you can reach out to Georgia at her campaign website. What is it again?
Davenport, Davenport, 4 Washington.com.
Now's a good time to do text banking and phone banking. I know a lot of people really don't like to do it, but once you get started, it's kind of fun actually talking to people. And a lot of times you end up having really good conversations with people and they don't know a lot of the things that we're telling them because the average everyday voter isn't going and checking out their legislators. They don't know what they're up to. So please think about helping Georgia out. So other than getting this initiative, is there anything out there that you're just busy with your campaign?
No, I actually have been working a lot. I did mention earlier the strategy to get a bunch of different states to run initiatives at the same time. And that's a strategy being talked about by One Payer States, which you can look up their organization at onepayerstates.org. And they're an organization that promotes single payer state by state and also Medicare for all. So kind of like whole Washington, but nationally. Right. Whole Washington supports Medicare for all. We did 10 barnstorms last year to advocate for a Medicare for all hearing, which I actually got to attend the first ever Medicare for all hearing with our communications director, Chanda. That was quite a historic event. And I'm really, really happy to have Camilla Jayapal as our representative here in our state and the champion of Medicare for all. And also, to advocate for Bernie Sanders' Medicare for all bill. And that's why we did that Red Berets song, is to thank him for all of his years of work to advocate for single payer. So that's one of the things I'm doing is helping One Payer States get organized so that we can have a good, strong, solid strategy for the next year to get many different states to pass a single payer bill. And also, I've been volunteering for Chris Armitage. I've had to kind of step back from that race. Because
Why don't you tell people who Chris is?
yeah. So the 5th congressional district where I live is represented by a Republican who's Trump's, I think, West Coast fundraising chair. And she just, well, she's Trump's fundraising chair.
Right, exactly. What more do we need to say?
So we have a great progressive Burningcrat who's running against her named Christopher Armitage. He's an Air Force veteran and former law enforcement, but he's an amazing progressive. So I was the field director for Chris Armitage for a while, but then I had to step back because I've got a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
Still definitely support him, and I'm really happy to continue to contribute and volunteer any way I can for his campaign. So you want to look him up too. And he definitely is a strong Medicare for All supporter and is pledged to co-sponsor the bill if he gets elected. When he gets elected.
When he gets elected, exactly. When he gets elected. Well, Georgia, I'm always so impressed with everything that you do. You're so inspiring with just how even-handed you are and how level-headed you are when it comes to pushing these things forward. You don't get bogged down in the muck with all the BS. You just keep going and eye on the prize. And I honestly think not only will you get Washington State there, but you will help lead other states there too. And I know you're not going to ever quit till we get there. So thank you seriously from the bottom of our hearts for everything that you're doing. And thanks for coming on and doing the show and just letting me know what was going on. And we have another campaign, the Poor People's Campaign, that has a massive push for this week that I just want to alert people about. You can go to june2020.org and sign up for the Massive Poor People Assembly. And this is an online thing. They, if you remember, the Poor People's Campaign was launched originally by Martin Luther King many, many years ago. They have, it's been there for a long time, but really now is the time. What we're seeing around the country, we're going to be seeing massive evictions. We've seen massive layoffs, people aren't working, and this all affects their healthcare because healthcare is integrated with employment, as it should not be, but it is at this point. And so millions of Americans are losing their healthcare during a pandemic. These are all issues that we need to be, on the front lines fighting for. And I just think that the Massive Poor People's Assembly is a great way to do that. So please just go to june2020.org and you literally just put your name in and they will send you an email with all the information. And we're all going to log in on June 20th and show the world that we support, the Poor People's Campaign. I'm trying to think if there's any other housekeeping I need to do. We got some good shows coming up. Oh, looks like Georgia's got some other stuff.
Yeah, you reminded me. Actually, on our website, there's 2 direct actions you can take right away. You can sign a petition to tell Governor Inslee to an emergency session. We have the CURE campaign. It's COVID urgent. Gosh, I forgot the acronym right now.
Urgent. Yeah, I'm trying to
Anyways,
remember.
It's called the Whole Washington Cure. And you can sign a petition for Governor Inslee to ask him to enact an emergency session. And then you can also, it's super easy to do, send a letter via our website to your legislator asking them to pass portions of the Whole Washington Health Trust in that emergency session. So please go to our website, wholewashington.org, and do one of those. Sorry for the intro.
No, it's like a form letter, right? They just go in and put your name in. It just fires it right off to your legislators. You don't have to think about the wording, nothing like that. And if you'd like to also get involved, there's these awesome weekday meetings where you guys meet and you call the legislators. I've been on one of those and it was fun. It really was. There's so many different things you can do. So please go to wholewashington.org to check that out and to sign up. Georgia, thank you so much for coming on today. I think Oz, what do we got? We got some shows lined up tomorrow. We've got a Unruly Hour with Joy. She's doing an interview in the morning, 9 a.m. And then, of course, we'll have The Dive. And then what other shows? You got a couple more.
Oh, my God. Tomorrow, I'm going to run away. I've got 4 shows tomorrow. We've got 4 shows tomorrow. Yeah, we're starting out with the Unruly Hour with Savage Joy. She's interviewing Lindsey Bolin, who is running for Congress in New York's 10th district. And then we have the dive, and we're all going to fly apart and splatter on the walls. So everybody come and watch us after the dive. Chanda is actually producing the daily dive tomorrow, because I'm going to be doing the show with Savage Joy. So, Chanda, this is your virgin faring out into the daily dive. So, did I say virgin? Okay. Now, we have Progressive Washington tomorrow afternoon, and it's going to be a bang-up show with Tyler Vega and crew. And then tomorrow night, we're hoping that we have Brave New Future with Amber King, who really does crack the code of the Brave New Future. So, then we got No Joke with Dennis and Amos and Marcus and Chanda Saturday morning. So that's it. But we've got so many shows in the pipe. I think I'm going to go dance on my head. So there we are.
Oz and I are a little busy. I'm kind of catching up with him busy wise. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I've got a great song for you by Carmen Music. You can check them out, and remember, there ain't no power like the power of the people, so get your boots in the street. Have a good night.
I'm about to lose my mind. You've been gone for so long, I'm running out of time. I need a doctor, call me a doctor. I need a doctor to bring me back to life.
I told the world one day I would pay it back, stay it on tape and lay it recorded so that one day I could play it back. But I don't even know if I believe it when I'm saying that. Doubt's starting to creep and every day is just so gray and black. Hope I just need a ray of that, cause no one sees my vision when I play it for them. They just say it's whack. They don't know what dope is. I don't know if I was awake or asleep when I wrote this. All I know is you came to me when I was at my lowest. You picked me up, breathed new life in me. I owe my life to you, but for the life of me, I don't see why you don't see like I do. But it just dawned on me, you lost the sun. Demons fighting you, it's dark. Let me turn on the lights and brighten me and enlighten you. I don't think you realize what you mean to me, not the slightest clue. You and me were like a crew. I was like your psychic, you gon' either wanna fight when I get off this mic, or you gon' hug me. Now I'm out of options, nothing else I can do, cause
I'm about to lose my mind. You've been gone for so long, I'm running out of time. I need a doctor, call me a doctor. I need a doctor to bring me back to life.
it hurts when I see you struggle. You come to me with ideas, you say they're just pieces, so I'm puzzled. Cause what I hear is crazy, but you're either getting lazy or you don't believe in you no more. Seems like your own opinion's not one you can form. You make a decision, you keep questioning yourself, second guessing, and it's almost like you're begging for my help. Like I'm your leader, but you're supposed to be my mentor. I can't do it no more, I demand you remember who you are. It was you who believed in me when everyone was telling you don't sign me. Everyone at the label, let's tell the truth. You risked your career for me, I know it as well as you. Nobody wanted to mess with the white girl, hey, I'm crying in this booth. You saved my life, now maybe it's my turn to save yours. But I can never repay you, what you did for me is way more. But I ain't giving up faith, and you ain't giving up on me. Get up now, I'm dying, I need you, come back for heaven's sake.
I'm about to lose my